Ladies, gentlemen, furries, and paella lovers. Today we're going to be taking a look at a different firearm, one that might look like something else, but let me assure you, it's an imposter. Today we're looking at this. For all intents and purposes, this looks like a 1911 until you get in close and you realize it's made in Spain. So this that we are reviewing today, or taking a look at, is a firearm that's got a history in and of itself, as well as a history with my family. So it belonged to a relative, and then my grandfather bought it, and then he ended up having it stolen from another family member. I had to work really hard to get this firearm back. Laws of possession in the United States suck sometimes with major democratic cities, especially cities like Charlotte. So, if you guys agree with that statement, and we should have it easier for people who are law-abiding citizens who have concealed carry to obtain their own personal possessions easier after getting it seized by the police, hit that like button for me. So this is actually a direct copy of the Browning 1911 done by Spain. And they actually put this into production right before World War II. The gun was used extensively by the Spanish, but Spain was actually a neutral country during World War II. So the gun didn't actually see direct engagement in the war, other than some being exported to the Nazis. So, there's actually an interesting thing on this pistol. I won't show it to the camera while it's loaded, but we're going to get a clip later of some engravings with this pistol, because this is actually one of the more rare models of the pistol. It is marked LPN, which stands for La Police Nacional, which was Spain's military police force. These guns were used extensively by them for quite a while. And whenever I start shooting it in a minute, you can definitely see why. Being in 9mm, the gun is extremely accurate, and being that it is almost a direct copy of the Browning 1911 with some differences, little internal differences, it is super accurate. It is super enjoyable to shoot. But instead of me sitting here talking about how enjoyable it is to shoot, let's take a look downrange at the target and fire off some rounds and really get a chance to show how accurate and fun this gun is to shoot. So, much like a 1911, it does have a thumb safety. It is single action only. There is no double action on this gun. To flip off the safety, you simply sweep the thumb safety down and you are ready to fire. Something interesting is, unlike with the 1911, with hammer down, you can flip the safety on this firearm. Let's move up a little bit and take some shots. And we are empty. So, the gun cycles great. It has a very, very smooth recoil. However, one thing I have, and this is one of my biggest critiques of this gun, this was the first handgun I really got into shooting. Yeah, I shot some 22s starting out at the age of 7, 8 with my grandfather, who, unfortunately, Papa isn't able to get out here and shoot with me like he used to. 90 years old, unfortunately, he can't do what he used to do. So, whenever I was a bit older, around 16, 17, somewhere around there, he actually let me get this one out and start shooting it. And I ended up falling in love with center fire handguns because of it. Whenever my hands were much smaller than they are now, and we'll get a good shot of this in a minute, I have quite large hands. My camera person is going to stick her hands out, and we're going to get a comparison. This gun is not meant for big-handed American individuals. This gun actually works better with medium to maybe large size individuals, which apparently is what the Spanish had. So this gun, if you're not wearing gloves, which I highly recommend if you get to shoot one of these, because it is an enjoyable gun to shoot, you do wear gloves. So I think we're probably a little ways back, farther, maybe about 15 yards. We ended up getting, I think, 4 rounds on the target. Let's go down and check the target. So some of my shots did go high. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 that are off the paper. But we do have 1, 2, 3, 4 that are on the paper. This is a 9-shot gun. Being that it is 9mm instead of 45, I think you get 8 or 9 in the magazine plus 1. So it's pretty interesting. Now that we are empty, hammer down, no round in the chamber. I'm going to go ahead and get a look for you guys, if you can see it, at that engraving, LPN, La Police Nacional, which is, again, Spain's military police force. Unfortunately, like I said, this gun ended up spending quite a while in CMPD's police evidence lockup because a family member did end up stealing it from me and my grandfather, and it took quite a lot of effort to get it back. But thankfully, because of the fact that it was my granddad's, because of the fact that it had history to it with it coming from Spain and being a direct copy of the 1911, and because of it being just an absolute enjoyable gun to shoot, despite the fact that it gives me nasty hammer bite if I'm not wearing gloves, I absolutely wanted it back. So I worked hard, fought the police to get it back, and we did get it back. And I'm able to enjoy it with you guys. Putting this on the internet and showing you guys a wonderful historic firearm, which is why, if you guys notice, I'm wearing M80 Woodland instead of the common Marpat. Sometimes with a vintage firearm like this, it deserves to be paired with a vintage camouflage, and that's what we're doing today. We're going to take a brief intermission here. I'm going to load this back up, and we're going to move up a bit and take some more shots. Alright guys, so we loaded up with 9 more rounds. Unfortunately, this gun, being that it is an older vintage firearm from around World War II, those kind of guns are really hard to get your hands on spare magazines for. Unfortunately, I don't have any sites that I know of where I can recommend to you guys to look for vintage weapons magazines like this vintage Star Model B. Unfortunately, magazines like that are super hard to come by, and I only have the one for this firearm, which is the one I assume it was brought into the country with whenever it was imported. So we're having to take breaks to reload, as opposed to what I really love doing, which is reloading on the clock and giving y'all a really good idea of how to use this firearm, which we're going to go over after I dump the next couple rounds. We moved up a little bit and to see if I could kind of get a little bit more accuracy to show you guys what this firearm is really like. Of course, we have the 4 shots that were already on the target that we showed just a minute ago. Let's see if we can't punch some more holes in that paper and really show how accurate this firearm can be as a sort of clone of a 1911. So again, this does hold 8 rounds in the magazine, 1 in the tube. Alright, slide lock, we are empty. Let's see if we can't find those brass casings in a minute. But let's go over some controls with this firearm. If you are a person who is used to shooting a 1911, you are going to feel extremely home at this gun, with this gun. you have a small magazine release located right here, just like any standard 1911. You have your slide release right up here, like any standard 1911. Your thumb safety, which we've already run over, is standard 1911. This gun, almost everything except in smaller proportions, is identical to your 1911 A1 that was available after World War I. So, I'm going to drop the slide on this, hammer down, put that back in the holster. Guys, we have some targets that I used in my M16 video, which is only available on Rumble because of the restrictions that YouTube has. Videos like this with semi-automatic handguns that, of course, don't have a large magazine capacity, I'm able to put on YouTube. But firearms like my M16A4 clones, or the video that I'm going to have coming out hopefully soon, whenever I can get up with one of my friends, on the Mac 11 that he owns, which is a 32 30-round gun. Those are videos I can only produce for you guys over on Rumble. So please help me go and get likes and shares on both YouTube and Rumble if you're able to get the Rumble app, which is free and is a whole lot more welcoming to firearms content creators like myself. So, absolutely get those two apps. Follow, like, share, and something that I'm going to do on this video that I think is available on my Rumble videos, we'll have to go back and check. I now have a Patreon. Please, if you enjoy seeing content like this, go and contribute whatever you can to my Patreon. We're going to have some targets from the M16 video that I've already signed and put back up that are name dated with my organization, Belikov Outdoors, which is my YouTube and Rumble channel, that I'm going to give to you guys as my Patreon supporters. We are currently looking for, at this time, somebody who can do laser engraving, and we're going to start doing, for Patreon supporters, paracord necklaces and bracelets that are woven paracord with shell casings from these videos that I'm doing that are marked Belikov Outdoors, and it's going to have that particular video, whether it's the Star 9mm or my SP01 or the M16A4, it will hopefully be engraved by the person who's making these bracelets, and I can give those out to you as my Patreon supporters for helping me put together firearms content like this. Ammo is coming down and is not as expensive as it used to be, but it's still expensive. Shooting firearms is a relatively expensive hobby, and you guys are something that I really enjoy sharing the history and creative content like this with. If you guys really love seeing this kind of creative content, liking and sharing is a good way to do it. But if you can, please financially support Belikov Outdoors so I can go and get higher round counts on something like my shotgun project, which I've got holding back because I really want to do a lot of higher count shells or higher shell count on my shotgun so I can figure out if it is recommendable to you guys. But let's go downrange and check the target. So, big difference compared to last time. I think we have the 3 shots that were up here, 4 shots that were up here, but we added quite a few more holes in this paper. Definitely more in the bullseye section. So I think we were able to get all 8 of the shots on the paper that time. Slow is fast, fast is smooth. I think we pulled one maybe down here, not sure though. But as you guys can hopefully tell, this is a fairly accurate firearm. Now, whenever these came into the country, these were around $300 for a 9mm 1911 style clone. Since then, I think they've went up quite a bit. These guns are hard to come by because whenever people like Tim from Military Arms Channel started reviewing, much like I am now, firearms like this, he honestly sung their praise because there's a lot to love about this. You have the controls of a 1911, the cheap, inexpensive nature of shooting 9mm, and there's not much that you aren't going to love about this firearm. So we'll put another 9 rounds through the gun. I've kind of already went over everything I think you can go over, and something I don't know if I mentioned, because this is a military firearm, well, technically military police, each and every part on this gun is actually serialized. You can see the 7.76 right there, I believe it is. It's up on the frame right here. It's over on your slide release. It's so cool to get these old military firearms that show each individual part marked and designated, because that's how they ended up finding all the parts that went to this specific gun. This gun, aside from the magazine, I believe is almost 100% parts matching, which is always cool to a collector. Now, unfortunately, because of it being in a police armory, I didn't get it back with its original factory finish, which was a deep blue, like you see some of the gun here. It ended up being much more distressed after I had to clean a lot of the rust off of it, which, unfortunately, sitting in police armories, these guns don't get as much attention as they should, and firearms do end up acquiring patina. So this one ends up having a distressed finish. Maybe at some point I will get this gun completely de-blued and re-blued, just so it can have that lovely factory blue that it once had. But instead, for now, we're going to have that cool battle-worn distressed finish on this. So let's back up, give it 9 more rounds, and I will do some closing thoughts with this. Alright guys, so we're back. We've loaded up with another 9 rounds. We're going to take a couple shots at the target. Today we're shooting Monarch 124 grain, Monarch 124 grain, which is available over at Academy Sports and Outdoors. I've had a really good luck with their range ammunition. Never really encountered too many problems with it. If at some point we do get another ammo provider, or I'm using a different kind of ammo, I will try and go and start mentioning that in the videos so I can start recommending ammunition. But that said, let's go ahead and shoot these last 9 rounds, give you guys some thoughts and opinions on this. Again, cocked and locked, single action only handgun, flip that off, and let's just try and do some one-handed shooting like they kind of did back then. There we go, slide lock. Empty. 9 rounds. And I see quite a few more holes on the target. So I'm going to slip this back into the holster. Let's go back down and check the target. Now, at the ranges that you were expected to use a combat handgun or even a police sidearm like this was ended up pushing into service, I think this is highly accurate. Realistically, this isn't a match grade gun. It's going to be a firearm that absolutely you can take out to the range, you can enjoy, and what I'd like to call a shootable piece of history. However, it's not exactly match grade accuracy, but as they say, it's close enough for government work. These guns are super fun to shoot, like I've already said. They are, or at least were, inexpensive whenever they came into the country at like $300. Point blank, if I found one of these in good condition, majority parts matching, would I recommend buying them to any of you guys as my viewers? Yes, 100%. They are cool historic firearms. They have a history to them in which Spain wanted a 1911. They wanted a firearm that was rugged, reliable, accurate, and could work for their police force, national police force, and their military, and they got that with the Star Model B. The same was true in other areas of Europe, like, unfortunately I don't have one, the Polish Radom, which is another super 1911 looking gun, again chambered in 9mm, was highly praised for the gun's accuracy, ergonomics, controls. Unfortunately for the Polish Radom factory, those guns did end up getting captured by the Nazis and used extensively by them. Some of these pistols, the Star Model Bs, ended up being sent to the Nazis by the Nazi sympathizing Spanish. If you guys haven't learned your history, you would know that Spain actually was backed in the Spanish Civil War by the Nazi regime. The Nazis came in and backed the more fascist Spanish government that ended up taking place. However, the Spain remained neutral in World War II. So these guns ended up coming into the country, I believe, in the 70s, 80s. They were fairly inexpensive. They came in several batches. You could still find batches coming in the early 2000s, even up to, like, I want to say even 2010. Super cool guns. If you can find them now, there aren't any, as far as I know, that are coming into the country. Most of them have already come in. They're floating around. You could probably find them at Cabela's. They're definitely worth picking up. They're fun, accurate guns to shoot. Like I said, one major gripe: if you have big bear paws like I kind of do, or even bigger hands than I do, this is not a super comfortable gun to shoot, because of the fact that I personally like to get really high up here on the web, and if you're not shooting with gloves, like I have started shooting all the time, this hammer, much like the Browning High Power, will come back and give you nasty hammer bite. So that is a negative aspect I do not like of the gun. But that is about it, guys. It could have better sights, but honestly, for a historical piece of firearm from the pre-World War II era, or around that World War II era, it is an awesome piece of history to have and own, and I would highly recommend y'all picking it up. This has been Sterling Belikov for Belikov Outdoors. I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of historical video on the Star Model B made in Spain. Until next time, I will see you guys later. There will be a short for this video. Keep watching that.